go live now to Kyiv. We can talk to the Ukrainian MP Kira Rudik. We've been lucky enough to have Kira on the show before, so we're really delighted to have you today on such a historic moment. President Zelenskyy visiting both the UK and France. He's pretty clear, isn't he, that he wants to see more support in the form of fighter jets. Why is that so important?
Hello, Sophie. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Well, first of all, I want to extend everything that President Zelenskyy said on behalf of Ukrainian people and its gratefulness for all the support that we received from the United Kingdom, from people of the United Kingdom. And it's very important for us that we are not only asking for more support, but that we are making very clear how grateful we are and that we will never forget it. So since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we were asking for one thing: help us protect our skies, help us to defend ourselves against the missiles that are coming from the air. There is no way for people in Ukraine to protect themselves from it. We only are counting on the air defense systems that are not perfect. So we need this another layer of protection, and it is fighter jets. They are called fighter jets, but they are actually used to defend the sky against the missiles that are targeting the peaceful cities, the schools, the hospitals, people's homes. You probably remember just 2.5 weeks ago, there was a missile attack on a building in the Dnipro city where 46 people died, many of them in their beds. This is what we want to protect ourselves against. This is why we need fighter jets to be able to say to people in Ukraine here, you may not be scared to go to bed every night. There are ways to protect you against those attacks. So we have had so many unique coalitions, the heavy weapon coalitions, then the NLAW coalition, then the HIMARS coalition, and then the Patriot coalition, which was, I think, life-changing for all of us in Ukraine. Then something unspeakable happened. So the tank coalition appeared, and now we are expecting that there would be tanks that will allow us to free more of our territories and finally put the end to the war with our victory. And so what we desperately need a year from the full-scale invasion is fighter jets now. We need the planes. And if we get them, it will be really a game changer in the war. Not on the battlefield, but in the ability of Ukrainian people just simply live, exist.
You speak really powerfully about the impact of the war and the people who've died in their beds, as you say. You know, we all remember, images from Ukraine, whether it's bombed out playgrounds, whether it's flats, blocks of flats just left in rubble, in ruins. What is your view of the British Prime Minister's response to President Zelenskyy? It wasn't clear to me whether or not he was definitely signing up to providing more jets, just saying that there was they had no problem with it in principle.
Well, first of all, we all have heard President Zelensky's speech. I think it was hard to resist and absolutely hard to say no to what he was asking. But also what we learned over the past couple of months, that when we hear no from our allies, it's just the beginning of the conversation. This is why the fact that Ukrainian pilots will be training on the jets is a huge step forward for us, because we know that once we will have the trained pilots and trained Marines, it will be much easier to ask for more weapons. And when we get them, they will start working for us faster. So, Sophie, we kind of run on the hope fuel right now. And today we've got another boost of this hope. And knowing that the training start basically means that the conversation continues. President Zelenskyy continues his trip to Paris and then to Brussels, and he will be giving the same message. Don't only stay with Ukraine, don't only stand with us, please keep supporting us, but also let's all see the way of how we win the war. And this is how we win the war. We need the fighter jets, we need the support, we need the weapons to fight back, to defend our land, to regain our sovereignty, and to end the war.
I need to ask this question because I know that there will be some people who are watching at home who will be wondering this, and they'll be worried about an escalation with Russia and the consequences of that. If countries like the UK provide long-range missiles or fighter jets, they're worried about what it means for security in the UK. What would you say to them?
What kind of escalation are we talking about? So you see, I think as of right now, the world has eliminated the nuclear threat from Russia. We have heard it from China and from Indian leaders who are saying that they are absolutely sure that Putin would not resort to that. We want to hope that, of course, but we never know. But what kind of escalation are we talking? We see that Putin cannot push back and cannot win the war with the Ukrainian army. So he would unlikely go forward or can start another war. So and in Ukraine, he already committed all the war crimes from the war crimes list. We have suffered all kinds of terror and atrocities. And we know that there are more to come because he would not stop unless we stop him. So when we are talking about escalation, I always wonder what people mean by the escalation. I think escalation happened a year ago, and every single day since that time, we are working to take him down, to make sure that he would not be threatening the world anymore. And I think we have been very successful all together in doing that.
It's a very powerful answer that you give. I remember interviewing you and talking about, the impact it's had on children in particular, and the parents of Ukraine and what the kind of thing that they've had to do and to live through. What is the situation like now in Ukraine? You're talking to us from Kyiv.
So I'm running on diesel generator because there is no electricity. And as of right now, more than 50% of energy infrastructure in Ukraine has been destroyed. So we are going through this probably hardest winter for all of us since Second World War, because when you are waking up in the morning, you go and you check if you have heat, if you have running water, and if you have electricity, and if all of your devices are charged. And it's almost never when you have all of it. And I can tell you, if we were very scared and complaining that it is hard to sit in a bomb shelter, I can tell you there is a huge difference when you're sitting in the bomb shelter, when you have heat and you have electricity and kids can play on their devices or you can read to them. And there is huge difference when it is dark and cold and there is no connectivity or no internet. And it's much harder to sustain, much harder to still keep it up and say, oh, it's just a game, because it's not a game when it's so scary. So we have been doing everything that is in our powers to make it easier. But the winter has been tough on everyone. And I do hope that we have maybe a month and a half left. And then it will be easier on everything. But it was indeed there, and especially in the regions that were deoccupied, where not only energy system has been destroyed, but many things, like almost everything has been destroyed. I have recently traveled to Mykolaiv and Kherson, and I have observed that it's really a challenge for our nation to go through that, and then to have those wounds become scars and then to heal those scars. And I still want to say how grateful we are for all the support and humanitarian aid that we are receiving, because for the deoccupied regions, they basically survive on this humanitarian aid. And for that, I'm so grateful on behalf of Ukrainian people.